The science team chose the following SMART goals to work on this year. Students will be able to interpret data in a table, graph, chart, and other types of data presentations. They will also be able to write short, constructed responses to analyze the data. Secondly, students will increase number sense through the application of common math terms. These common tests were developed so that we would have a common focus, be teaching the same skills, be able to access or report skill acquisition school-wide, and begin our conversation to Common Core standards. We determined that there were 57 ELGs in the disciplines that we broke down into our module classes. We wrote pre-tests specific to each ELG to keep in a common folder. The tests would include content, data presentation, number sense, and constructed response questions. For each quarter, we also wrote post-tests to align with the pre-test. We created a common data collection system and agreed to keep information based on class percentages versus actual numbers so that we could have consistent data from one teacher to another and in each of the disciplines.
The science team collected data in 4 categories: class content, data presentation, interpretation, and manipulation, constructive responses, and number sense across the 4 disciplines: physics, earth science, biology, and chemistry. These categories were chosen based on last year's test data and observations in order to help students improve general science skills that could be applied to everyday living, to increase students' ability to understand complex science topics, to teach students how to apply critical thinking skills to real-world solutions, to increase student achievement in science as well as math and English, and to increase student test performance. Data was gathered through pre-tests and post-tests that the science team developed in each of the disciplines.
In January, the science team met and reviewed both our team data and ACT pre-test information.
Based on the pre- and post-test data, we decided to refine the tests that we were administering so that we could collect and report more succinct data. We went through the 57 tests that we had developed and chose the best in each of the 4 disciplines. We examined the ACT pre-test diagnostics for the school. We looked at the number of students who answered each question incorrectly and identified where we had the largest number of students choosing the wrong answers. We analyzed why students may have come to the wrong conclusions. Based on the ACT diagnostic information for science skills, we further refined the types of questions that we needed to be asking and how we could improve skills in the areas that were the lowest.
We adjusted the tests and created 4 tests in each discipline, 1 for each quarter. We determined that fewer tests would give us better data to compare for student achievement. Tests that were more aligned with the complexity of the test questions on the ACT would help drive classroom instruction for all students. We also determined that we needed to have skill practices with complex data presentations on a regular basis. The practices needed to have multiple questions on multifaceted topics. Skill practices needed to reflect the content area, but not necessarily the content skills that we were teaching. We found some materials and created resource books that would give us skill practices in the subject areas for each of our individual classes. We could then teach the data presentation skills as well as taking the test-taking skills. Students do not have to know the subject matter or fully understand the written passages to interpret and analyze the data, then relate that data to real-world situations.
It has been a very effective year for the Science Vertical team. We created an action plan, then we collected data, only to figure out that our action plan needed revisions. We adjusted our expectations and plan and compiled data that illustrates successful increases in student achievement in number sense, content, data interpretation, and constructed responses. For the 2013-2014 school year, the Science Vertical team would like to continue to collect data using our common pre-tests and post-tests, refining those tests as necessary. We'd also like to look for resources that will help support our goals and Common Core. We'd like to complete the Scantron training so that we could use diagnostic data to do even better classroom instruction. And we would like to revisit Earth Day as a McLean School project. This year sets the stage for an even more successful 2013-2014 school year.